We're so glad to have you all here this third week that we're here. And this morning's topic is Moving Montrose Forward, 2019 City of Montrose Capital and Street Maintenance Projects, also known as How to Not Get Stuck in Construction Traffic this summer. The City of Montrose is planning to perform approximately $15 million worth of capital construction and street maintenance projects in 2019. This includes numerous utility projects, the Go Co-Connect Initiative Trail Project, Year 2 of the Move Mo Streets Maintenance Blitz, the roundabout at Hillcrest in Miami, and continued work at the Montrose Urban Renewal Authority, and many more. Scott is a registered professional engineer specializing in municipal infrastructure design, geotechnical analysis and design, and construction project management. Scott holds Bachelor of Science and Master of Engineering degrees in Civil and Environmental Engineering from Utah State University. Before coming to the City of Montrose in 2013, he worked as a consulting project engineer in Salt Lake City, Utah. As a city engineer, Scott is responsible for managing the designs, construction, and inspection of the city's large-scale capital projects, as well as plan review and inspection of infrastructure-related elements associated with subdivisions and site developments for the City of Montrose. Scott's wife, Whitney, is an elementary school teacher for the Montrose County School District. Scott and Whitney came to Montrose for the same reason everyone else comes to Montrose: a fantastic quality of life and a sense of community that cannot be found anywhere else. To that end, Scott and Whitney enjoy all things Montrose: quality time with family, local sports, fishing, hiking, camping, and exploring the area mountains and deserts. So after Scott talks this morning, we will have a Q&A session where we will be hearing your questions. Just a reminder, we know that everybody has opinions, but we're really here to hear Scott's expertise, so we would like to have your questions. Let's welcome Scott.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming. I think I'll stand over here. So, like she said, the goals of today's presentation, or the goal of today's presentation, is to not get stuck in construction traffic if you can avoid it, and secondly, to hopefully be able to impress all your friends when somebody goes, "What the heck is going on over there?" and you'll know, in theory. So she kind of touched on it in the intro, but I'll just kind of go in real quick how the engineering departments, how we're set up in the city organization, and what that means for projects, and how they come about. MoveMo is kind of a weird name, so we'll talk about what that is, and then just dive into, kind of a recap of last year's projects, this year's projects, and then even going beyond into 2020, some of our longer range planning. So, engineering, we're right here. This is the city's org chart. We're kind of a lone wolf out here, don't have anybody below us. But we work for essentially the whole city. Streets department, they take care of their street maintenance, day-to-day operations. Utilities takes care of a lot of their main operations. But whenever a project gets large enough that we're having contracted design and construction, generally that's when we take it. We'll manage projects usually over $500,000 come to us. We manage those all through design and construction, then also all the construction management and construction inspection is handled by our department. So for everything we'll be talking about today, if you have any complaints, I'm the guy. And then Public Works was reorganized about a year ago. So we have the Public Works Manager, which is Jim Scheid. They take care of fleet, parks, streets, trash and recycling, and then utilities is its own division. So sewer, wastewater, and water distribution. And again, we kind of support them through the larger projects. So what the heck is MoveMo? Why did we give it such a weird name? So it stands for Moving Montrose Forward. Initially it was going to be Move Mofo. And we thought, I liked it. But everybody else thought that was a bad idea. And it wasn't original. Everybody uses that when driving around already anyway. So we changed it to MoveMo. We have a website, movemo.co, which I'll show you. So the CO, I think, is for Colorado. so you can do anything with website names these days, I guess. But it's kind of a branded effort that came out of, mostly started with, we've known the importance of infrastructure and investing in infrastructure. The recession hit us, just like many rural communities, pretty hard, and we're behind, just like everybody. And people noticed. So the community survey in 2016, these are, what do you want to see the most attention be given toward? Traffic flow and congestion management, 70%. Condition of city streets, 66%. And then all this other unimportant stuff below that. But the take home, and I was just kidding, that's important. But the take home here is, by far, you can see how far these lines out are from everything else that people care about our streets and they don't want to be stuck in traffic, and they're looking for us to fix that. So in response to that, we've kind of done a concentrated effort to include various, reallocation of funds, some loan money to try and catch up on some of the backlog, because as a city we generally have essentially almost no debt, which is great for a municipality, and so it gives us good opportunities to, keep some of these projects and some of the stuff from going over the edge while it's still cheap to fix. So, let's see, going into 2018, so if you guys remember what South Hillcrest used to look like, this is the before and after on that. This was completed last November. Came in 1.9 million. Original contract was 2.0 million, so had some cost savings there. And she's done. They got to do a little bit of work on the bridge up here to fix some of the patch work they did incorrectly up here. I think they have a little warranty work down here, but beyond that, that project is generally complete. Another big project for 2018 was the Urban Renewal Authority. And I didn't realize how much stuff has been going on until I put this together. What a difference a year makes. So this is January 2018 when we started. They have the foundation for Mayfly's building out here. This is all across from the Justice Center. If you go to, there's an Urban Renewal Authority webpage, it kind of goes into what this project is doing. And any of these projects we could talk about probably for hours because there's a lot of layers to them, but I'm trying to kind of give just a high-flying overview. But so if I skip some things, some of the details, I apologize. But yeah, what a difference a year makes. So this project is even dated. They've since completed all the sidewalks and all that, but got the project completed, the final plat done. So the central the Colorado Doors project is about 170 acres. This is about the central 40 are now complete, final platted, and lots are ready to go for this project. So great timeline on that. Mayfly's moving in. I saw a cat. Mayfly's moved in,
yeah,
kinda. Their factory has moved in, so this is the factory there for Ross Reels. And the admin move-in is coming in soon. But all that came in under budget. We actually had enough. We had about $800,000 in savings that's going to go towards some of the landscaping work on that I'll talk to later. And then this was our big kind of streets maintenance blitz. So this is a picture off the website showing all of the work we did. Kind of our move, mow, street maintenance blitz. We dedicated $5 million over 2 years. Last year we used about 2.7 million of that. So we'll have 2.3 left this year. I'm also referring to that as the summer of detours. That's when our detours had detours. And for a reason, that was very painful for all of us. But this year we're looking at doing the roundabout, and all of these roads here, we had to get to them. They were on the verge of really falling apart. And we needed those, because once we close this intersection for the Miami Hillcrest roundabout, our detour options get very limited if these were also closed. So that would have been detour on a detour on a detour. So could have been worse, I guess. But some of the projects you remember here, this is Niagara. This ended up being a full rebuild because the old pavement was about 2 inches thick, even 1 inch thick in some places, which is amazing. I mean, think about how much traffic Niagara has, and it had that much pavement, that much base. And you've noticed on some of these South Hillcrest, Niagara here, we did some additional parking bulb outs on this one. And what we've done is kind of reconfigured to our typical template, which South Hillcrest, this road here, all these, we're trying to go to this, this has kind of become our standard go-to road template, which is through lane in each direction, dedicated left turn lanes to keep volume and safety improved, dedicated bike lanes in each side. So between this, what we did up here at Rio Grande Park, I think we added 3 miles of bike lanes or so last year, which is great for our bike network. And one of those that if you don't, it's essentially free, it's just striping, because you're striping the road anyway. And getting a critical mass to the network so that biking becomes more and more prominent and, starting to get connectivity and get rid of all these dead ends. Some of the other stuff from 2018 was what was called a Cape Seal. And one of the unfortunate things about a Cape Seal is it's black. And so everybody thinks it's a pavement overlay, and it's not. It was essentially a fancy chip seal. So we chip seal the road and then put this, it's called a slurry seal on top of it, which is a black fine aggregate on top of that. So like Rio Grande, Grand Avenue on the north end, some of these streets, so it's Rio Grande especially, that we don't want to invest too much money in, because eventually this will get turned into an arterial and completely rebuilt. And we don't want to spend a lot of money in that if in 10 years we're just going to tear that back out. So if, some people said Rio Grande is rough, and it's still rough, and it is, and we recognize that, but it's a matter of using that asset best so that we don't waste money and end up taking it back out, if that makes sense. I think that's about it for 2018. There's a lot of utility work. That's what took so long on Niagara and Hillcrest. We have old transite water pipes. They're usually about 50 years old, or usually have a life of about 50 years, and a lot of them are 50 years old, which is, job security, I guess. But anytime we do these, major overlay projects, we try and replace the utilities while we're at it, so we don't have to come back. As luck would have it, you would, my last name is Murphy, you would break, the water line would break the day after you open the road, and then we'd all be in trouble. So, trying to just look ahead on that. And that was the big stuff for 2018. There was some smaller stuff, but we got too much to talk about in 2019, so we'll move on. So, diving into 2019's projects, this is one of the utility projects. You guys may have noticed some digging going along the rec trail down here by Stover's. So this is Stover's chocolate factory here. It's kind of tilted on its side, so Townsend is running along the north, and then Target's down here. Back in the day, they built this development, they built Home Depot, and they built River Landing, and none of them, there's multiple landowners that come across here, and they could never get the easements worked out to get a sewer line across there. Typically along here, along any city, you'll usually have a trunk line right along your river that flows by gravity that you can dump all the sewage into. For these, they couldn't get down there, and so all of these are on individual lift stations. So they all pipe to a lift station and then pump down to the gravity system here. This one pumps out and down. This one pumps actually all the way across Townsend, all the way down to Oxbow, Williams, Oxbow, and then down by the rec center, which is amazing that was more cost effective at the time than dealing with the landowner issues here. Through 2 years of working on this, we've gotten through the landowner issues and are now putting in a trunk sewer line along what will eventually be the extension of Rio Grande. So Rio Grande, right at the Stover factory, turns to East Oak Grove and dumps back out into Townsend. Long term, you'll notice this is also called Rio Grande down at the light, down by Target. That's by design. So this will snake along here. The sewer takes a jog out there because of the arroyo, but we'll end up connecting ultimately in that alignment. So that's a long ways out, but we put the sewer line in the same place now to get that out of the way, because these lift stations they cause us a lot of problems with our maintenance liability, and then also they produce hydrogen sulfide, which is very corrosive on the rest of our system. So it's costing us a lot of money just in degradation of other portions. So that worked about $650,000. They've already mobilized. You'll see next week, or starting Monday, right, Ryan? Monday they'll start the connections down here at East Oak Grove and Rio Grande. Those will be lane shifts, so traffic will be open in both directions. You'll have to wait for warm weather to come patch that back, so it'll be rough for a little bit, but runs out along there. And then also, kind of worked out really well, because a lot of the acquisitions we had to do for here also applied to our GoCo Trail project, which we'll talk about in a minute. So we got a twofer. This is, you might have noticed some of the work going on Miami, up by what would be in the future 6800 road. We're replacing a 24-inch water line up here. Our Sunnyside tank is right here, And in the summer, we haven't had the problem yet, but with increased demand, and then obviously with the drought last year, we were a little nervous at times, but we're able to stay ahead of it. But as growth continues, keeping throughput on the water line through this area and keeping our tanks full becomes more and more a challenge. So this project is kind of one of three helping with getting the upper parts of our system and keeping our tanks full so that we have redundancy against drought, fire flows, and better operation of our system. So we haven't seen that going on here. Pretty low impact project outside of the closure at Miami. It's a 24-inch line, so this is our lead inspector, my son, for scale. I think that water pipe is bigger than he is, but I don't know. The contractor bribed him with a brownie that day, so they probably got away with something. Williams Construction's doing that work. It's about a $650,000 job, and they are disinfecting today. And hopefully they'll have that in service here in a couple weeks, which is great. And we do these things in the winter to get ahead of, because summer demands is when our system really needs these kind of capacities. So that's what drove doing these projects in the winter. Same with the lift station elimination project. You know, in the winter, or in the summer when they start flood irrigating, the whole valley just kind of saturates from the bottom up, and so deep utility projects get pretty complicated. So we do a lot of our utility work in the winter when the water's lower, and then that sets us up also to do a lot of our paving first thing in the spring on some of those projects and get those buttoned up before traffic gets even busier. And this is the fun one. They're all fun. This is the funnest one. We were having fights over who gets to manage the construction of this one. Ryan lost, I'm sorry. So Josh Sickles from our office. So yeah, I guess introduce the department too. So Ryan Cushionen used to be the street superintendent, works for us again. And then Josh Sickles from our department. So it's us plus me, or me plus two, and then Dave Breeze is here, he's our utility superintendent. And then did streets. There's no streets today. Yeah, so the funnest project. So if you look at this map, the blue are our existing parks, the orange are the kind of existing rec trail network. And if you notice, there's a lot of awesome stuff right here, but all the people are over here. And that's, I think been a problem for the cities. We have this gem, an absolute gem of a park system down here, and no way to get to it, especially for the kiddos. It really came to light when we were designing this, and I had to stand for 15 minutes just to get across the street here at West Main. And I'm an adult. Also with the new rec center here, also kind of brings that isolation on this side here. You have a lot of population centers up here that, you have no choice but to drive currently. That kind of prompted the dream of trail connections that go underneath Main Street and underneath Townsend. It's been a dream for a while, really became a reality thanks to GoCo. So we've had a lot of great team projects. This is one of them. Working with the rec district, Montrose County donated some cash, I think, to this project, and like 15 other community partners. So for a $3 million project for the city, it's only $550,000 out of our pocket. So, two houses, if you put it into perspective of just how cheap and how great of a deal we're getting for this big of a project. So what we're gonna do is, start at the rec center here, go along behind City Market, underneath the Townsend Avenue Bridge, right behind City Market, behind the Four Seasons Mall, and then down along this new sewer project, tie into the existing trail. And then at West Main, I'll show you the picture. So this is the existing pier crossing. This is about 3 feet. And everyone said we were nuts when we came up with this idea. And then of course, because nothing's easy, there's a 3.5 foot diameter storm sewer pipe that T-bones the pier, which is not good for bridge stability. It's worked, but not great. So we'll be realigning that, but cutting out and doing soil nail tieback wall to underpin the existing abutment here and carve out the rec path here. When it's all said and done, you'll have about 10 feet wide, 9 feet of overhead clearance, all lit on both of them. This is over the City Market Bridge. This is what this one will look like. This one's got a little more room, so you'll have just a little retaining wall on the uphill side, carving out underneath the bridge. And going back, that work is being done. So fortunately, going back to all these, Mountain Valley Contracting, Williams Construction, Western Gravel Constructors, all local contractors, which is great. So we're getting all this external money, and we're able to use it not only to keep the money in our community, but also get the skill set and keep good learning opportunities for all of our contractors to have these unique, challenging projects and keep that talent local in addition to the cost, which is great for future projects. That work will be done, scheduled to open this winter. Here's a couple pictures of the construction underway. So this is Mayfly's new building. Kind of had an opportunity to get this retaining wall out of the way. Just a couple pictures out there. These are prefabricated blocks that they just put on a flow fill footing and snaking the trail back through there. That's where it got really tight. A lot of this is up against wetlands, all that river corridor, so we have to map the wetlands and make sure we stay out of them, obviously, with the project. To mitigate wetlands is $350,000 an acre. So we don't want to go in the wetlands. The wetlands are good. We want to keep them. The fun project, the other number 2 fun project for the summer, the Miami Hillcrest Roundabout. So this picture shows the footprint of the roundabout. You can see it's a pretty big project. So it starts all the way up here, past the north end of the Crossroads Church here, goes all the way down to Cherry Street, and then both ways here. It's a lot larger diameter. It's about the same diameter as the one on Woodgate because of the skew. So you have a pretty skewed intersection, so to be able to still get your trucks through there and maintain all of your geometry to meet standards, it ends up being pretty big. And then all the really fun stuff. So all these lines are the various utilities that'll be installed as part of that work. So people always ask, can't we keep it open and do it half at a time? And that's the reason we can't. It can be done. It would add, $500,000 to the project. So we just kind of bite the bullet and get it done quick. So we've just advertised that. Talked to council Monday. They're scheduled to vote on contract award mid-March. It's a $1.7 million contract. This is K&D Construction. We've never worked with them before, but they come on good recommend. They're out of Junction. But they're using Bernhardt Construction for concrete and Chuck Distal for a lot of the utility work. So a lot of that work still will stay local, which is great. We're doing this one a little unique. We gave them a closure window. And we actually negotiated it down to 4.5 months. So once they close the road, they have 4.5 months to open it, and done before November. So we're still working out that schedule, but I'd guess about mid-April, you can expect this to be closed. And this is the painful part. So this is the detour. And so there's no way to get across the intersection because of all these utilities constructed through there. So you'll see hard closures here. We will still have driveways to all the churches and homes on this corner. So if you're a member of any of those, you can still get there. But we're going to try and put closure, what I'm calling a soft closure, kind of at the major intersections as you go out from the street. Similar detour route to what we had for Sunnyside, up to 6720, 6700 Road, Junction, South 5th, Junction, South 5th, and then out to Main Street. There will be the abusers. Shortcutting is always a problem, and we try and police that and control it as best we can and keep them onto the detour route. But human nature, there's always abuse. The other piece of this is we'll have you might have seen the gravel road going in right alongside the golf course. There will be a secondary access to the golf course just for this project so that people can get out there. There's a chance people will shortcut through the golf course, and that may have to be closed, so we'll see how that goes. But if you're a golfer, you can still get there from this direction or from this direction to get to the Black Canyon Golf Course. This one might be the funnest on second thought. So for people who don't know, we have a reservoir built in 1912. The land grant that gave us the land for this reservoir was signed by Woodrow Wilson. I think it looked pretty legit, like he actually signed it, not just a stamp. Built in 1912, so as you can imagine, stuff built in 1912 it's about at the end of its life. It has an old 8-inch, parts of it steel, part of it transite pipe underneath the embankment down 50 feet from the top, all the way down there to get to the pipe. That's undersized, essentially at the end of its life, and needs to be replaced. So we don't use this reservoir primarily for our drinking water. Most of it comes to Project 7 through the Gunnison Tunnel, and they do trans-basin diversions because our rights sit with Ridgeway Reservoir on Tri-County or through Tri-County. But we do hold some rights to this. as an emergency. So I think if all supply, like say the worst case, Gunnison Tunnel were to collapse, this could keep us in water for a month, a couple of 3 weeks, something like that. 3 months, even better. We drained it this summer. The reservoir also doubles as it's now a state wildlife area. Through an agreement, we traded out Chipeta Lake for this here. And so this, managed by CPW, the fishery, we're working with them to reestablish the fishery when this is done. But drain the reservoir over the summer because you have to drain it really slowly so that you don't, because you end up with water trapped in the sides. You don't want it to cave in. Worked out really well. Gravity was on our side. We're able to actually do a siphon up and over the top of the dam. So once primed, just like you would siphon out a water bed or a swimming pool, it completely just, flowed on its own under gravity. And we were able to dump all this water into the Vernal Mesa Canal, or Vernal Mesa Ditch, I think they call it. And that goes out to Bostwick Park for irrigation water. So none of the water was lost, which is a good thing, especially last year. It's just that much more water they're able to use. Because Silverjack dried up pretty quick. And I think that's, and that work's being managed by RJH Consultants out of the Front Range. So this is, usually we manage all of our projects and all of our inspection because it's state regulated. It's a whole other level of oversight. And so this one we've actually hired consultants, so it's kind of turnkey. They're taking care of that project. You can expect it to be refilled next spring. So by the time we get done and get acceptance and order from the state to refill, the water will be off for the year because it's filled off of the water that comes out of Silverjack. So that'll happen next spring, and then we'll reestablish the fishery with CPW. Out on the Mira, this is Mayfly's building. Like I said, we saved about $800,000 in the original construction contract. That's now kind of freed up for some of the common area landscaping. So this is kind of the entrance, monument signage, kind of landscaping that'll happen on both the entry areas, and then we'll probably do the right-of-way within our street landscaping, and then as buildings come online, they will individually landscape their own frontages. But that work will be going on this summer. Beyond that, most of the URA work is complete. Another group project, River Bottom Drive. So this is Holly Park, one of our rougher parks in town. I think, built in 1970 something. Anybody from Rec District here? It was built in the 70s. Kind of through their community surveys was one of the highest priorities. And then River Bottom Drive, we've all been on that. We all know how fun that is, trying to get out of an event. So we teamed up, went after DOLA money, went out to, what was the name of it? Burlington. Go to Kansas and turn around. For an interview with DOLA, got $500,000 from them. And that was Barbara's joke, by the way. I gotta give credit. Everything looks to be a go. So we probably start after all the programming is done in September. Get a lot of the base work done. The county also partnered on this project. Thank you, Keith. To get the full template in here, get sidewalks down both sides, formal on-street parking, pipe the ditch, solve a lot of the safety issues. Dedicated pedestrian crossing here, flashing crossing here, get the intersection lined up so it's square, so that you can get out safely, get dedicated right turn lanes. Really just make this what it needs to be because, like you said, we have this gem of a park system and a not so gem entrance. And then combined with, a lot of the improvements at Holly Park. Rec District will be doing their project independently, we'll bid them at the same time, and then the city will be managing the street construction. The goal is to get that at least based before spring soccer. Anybody who has kids and has done spring soccer, that's always fun. So it'll be a gravel road probably through spring soccer, and then between soccer and we're looking at doing maybe a 1-week closure to pave it once it gets warm enough, because you usually can't pave until April, May timeframe, and or wait until between soccer and softball and hurry up and get that paved. During the closure, everyone will have to go around to Apollo Drive. We'll make that 2-way. And then if you listen to AM radio, you'll have heard about this project. So this is the Justice Center here, Mayfly's new building. We got $400,000 from the Colorado Water Conservation Board, which was they said was one of their largest awards on this program, which speaks a lot to the state's excitement about what we have going on here in Montrose. But But this portion of the river, we've been putting a lot of effort and focus on the river, understanding its importance from, just ecologically, for the quality of life for our residents, is things to do essentially free, and also for tourism, and investing in a project to kind of stabilize and improve the fish habitat and ecology through this area of the river. That's about a $1.5 million project, so the remainder isn't funded yet. We're working on that. If all that comes through, we would probably start that this winter. And it's essentially stabilizing, reconstructing the river. It's past land uses. It's had gravel pits in the middle of the river. This is all landfill that's kind of pushed the river this way. If you look at the old aerials going back to the 20s, the river is not where it wants to be. So what we're trying to do is mimic what nature typically would want, geomorphologically, and replicate that and make a stable channel through here. And then all of this land was dedicated as part of the URA's, the plat we just did. They dedicated 45 acres of land to the city that is now owned by us and will all be open to the public, accessed by the new river trail. So great activities for the neighborhoods here, good constructive, outdoor activities and fishing. Long term, we'd like to connect that across to Marine Road so that all of them can also get to our park system safely. And then there's some smaller ones. Probably heard about the Riverwood Water System. That's a county subdivision that has a failing water system. They're coming onto the city's network, our distribution system, at their cost. So we're just constructing it in front of the money. They're paying it back through an improvement district. On 6530 Road, the road going out to Bear Creek. That bridge deck is about the end of its life, so probably midsummer we'll start a replacement there. We haven't worked out the detour on that yet, but that one might be a little painful also. But we'll try and get that condensed as much as possible. Parks is looking to repair or replace the Green Bridge, which is, I think, the one off of Home Depot, correct? The rec trail across the Uncompahgre River just behind Home Depot. Also, is that the rail car one? It was an old rail car. A couple small parks projects, water and sewer rehab, typical stuff. Also a plug for CDOT. You'll probably see late summer, they're doing a ramp project on San Juan, Townsend, and West Main to replace a lot of the curb ramp, ADA ramps on the sidewalks to make those compliant. A lot of those are non-existent or non-compliant. And then the fun, or the hot button one, Little Blue, still looking like 2020 on that, where they might have intermittent closures of Highway 50. And they're still working out the details on how and when all that happens. I've generally been out of that loop, but I just wanted to let you guys know that it's coming. There's a website for that if you are interested in a little more detail on the product if you haven't heard about it. But that one will be pretty impactful to our community. So, it's a long project. I'm tired just talking about it. So then the other piece, like I said earlier, we have $2.3 million left for street maintenance this year. And what we're trying to do is spread the love, so hit a lot of places in town, all throughout town, not just any one area. And there's some roads that are admittedly pretty bad, that have probably fallen off the cliff. So you have this, condition curve. And you hit a point here where you just fall off the cliff, and it's like painting your house. It's cheaper to paint your house than to replace your siding. And so we have some that we can bring back by small, cheaper surface treatments. So, at the top here you have, so that's where you fall off the edge. At the top here you have crack seal, chip seal, some of these cheaper mill and overlays, some of these cheaper treatments. But once that fails you, then you're into this. And up here you're, $1 a square yard. Down here you're $15 a square yard. And so, kind of the adage on street maintenance is bad roads stay bad for a long time, unfortunately, because if funds are limited, we're going to spend them keeping the other ones from falling off the cliff, because if we just fix the ones that fall off the cliff, they'll all fall off the cliff. And it's, it's not probably unique to Montrose. A lot of communities have all these road networks, and it's a challenge to keep them up, admittedly. But we use, so I think I talked about this last time, we use ground penetrating radar, which is a little machine they run behind to look at pavement thicknesses. Ryan, back when he was in the streets department, would do this horribly complicated spreadsheet, just to give you a feel for the work that goes into, hey, it's not working. Oh, because I'm in the green ticket. Stand by. Now I gotta look at it. So anyway, so this is the work that goes into kind of prioritization of streets and the modeling of how much money we need to be throwing at it and where to put our best bang for our buck on our money. So I would never dream to, this is a Ryan thing. He's the mastermind behind this. If you have questions about this spreadsheet, feel free to ask me. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of work that goes into figuring out where to spend the dollars and spend them right, because admittedly, I think we know we'll never have enough to get it all, and so we got to do the best we can with the resources we do have. So this is what 2020 is looking like. Some of the higher profile ones. So mill and overlay of Hillcrest. So last year we did South Hillcrest, south of the Sunnyside roundabout. Because this is going to be closed this year, it's a good time to do the south of the Miami roundabout. Most of the blues here are mill and overlays. A couple chip seals, overlay Odell if funds allow. And that's the caveat on this. So we have 2.3 million and we'll go until we run out of money, so we're prioritizing within this list. So some of the stuff you see on here may not get done. Pavilion's another big one. Anybody's driven out Pavilion lately, that one's in pretty rough shape. And that's the definition of right on the verge. In a couple, 2-3 years, Pavilion would get pretty bad. And then crack sealing. Crack sealing is kind of your best bang for your buck. So we're going to do a lot of catch-up crack sealing contracts, some of it trying to hit a lot of the old town, and then city crews here doing some of this work. Because that's up in your dollar square foot range versus 15. So the single most important thing we do, in my mind, is crack sealing, and we just need to stay ahead of it. And then the in-house stuff, that's all done by the streets department. And then where you can go for more information. So as I hit on the website is movemo.co. And if I can get it to work, let me reload it, because they're putting in the information as we speak. So within this tab, you can sign up to get news alerts. So as we have detours or road closures, you can get alerts on this kind of blog style page here. You can also get, I think they can send them to your phone. And a lot of what we're talking about here, if you want additional information on, it's not working. Thank you.
The link was in the email that we sent out this weekend. So if you go back to your email from Saturday morning, it has a link to the interaction.
That's really cool spreadsheet. So here's the web, movemo.co. It'll redirect you to that, but if you just type in movemo.co, it'll bring you there. So you have, kind of product updates, closure notices here, and then you can just kind of peruse current capital projects, before and after pictures of recent projects. There's also maps that you can click around and click on them and see what they're doing. Street maintenance, so if you ever forget all this information we bombard you with, you can go in and just click on the streets and it'll tell you what's going on. We try and update that. During construction, that gets updated weekly, several times a week sometimes. So. All right. Now I gotta figure out how to get the other part now. Then we're almost done. That's the good news. Everybody that's getting tired. So, going into the future. So, there's a lot of projects out there. I wish we had a lot of money to make them all happen. So, this is kind of a picture of capital projects. So this isn't, your typical street maintenance, but projects that are generally in the hopper and on our dream list. Some of the more notable ones, Rio Grande Avenue. We have to buy the right-of-way from the railroad to make that one happen. You're looking at, let's see, $13 million by the time that happens. Our typical, so we've kind of been unique lately, but typically we have $1 million a year for capital to give you a feel for just how expensive some of these projects are. Preliminary design's done on that. One of the ones we've been talking a lot about lately is the Woodgate realignment. So with Hillcrest Extension here coming down, if you come down Hillcrest and want to go to Target, Walmart, in the south towns and stuff, you have to either be a bad person and shortcut through the neighborhood, or come out to the light here, which makes this short little stretch before Woodgate a really big bottleneck on Townsend. So we're doing studies to look at the impacts of South Hillcrest on this neighborhood and the shortcutting volume, and if that creates the basis for, we've had a landowner here that we've kind of come at a stalemate on negotiation of purchasing that right of way, so it might be one that goes to eminent domain, and we need to have that all hold up. We need to make the case to do that. So that's what we're looking at in the near future, roundabout at Niagara and Sunnyside, or Niagara and Hillcrest, and then just general reconstruction projects. So reconstruction of North Park, extension of 6700 Road. At some point, this will get reconstructed. Extension of East Oak Grove, reconstruction of Woodgate, extension of Rio Grande, paving of Anderson, all these things. And these aren't any given priority by any means. They're just kind of meant to illustrate all the stuff that's out there. So 10, 20, 25, 30, 40 million plus dollars of work that, if we won the lottery, we could build today, but, we'll take some time to implement. I think that's it. Whew, that was a lot.
Thank you so much. Is it working? Hello, hello. I'm still not familiar with this technology.
I can talk loud.
Okay, thank you so much. I so enjoy hearing about progress and also, understanding about what the limitations are going to be for us and the detours that are going to be happening this summer, etc. So now it's time to take questions. And so, as you know, that we all have lots of great opinions, but now is the time to have questions for Scott, because we like to hear his expertise. So let's go ahead and entertain questions. And would anybody like to have a question? Over here. And so, can somebody help me with the mic?
Just a quick question about the Green Bridge project that you talked about. Right now, when you cross that bridge, it goes low and there's always mud. So is the plan to build that up with some road base or something to keep that from happening?
Yeah, so that one's being managed by the Parks Department. That's why I didn't have too much detail on it. I think that, as far as I understand it, they are. So they're going to rebuild the abutments. They also have all those erosion issues because all that water comes down into a hole, and you can see where it's undercut the abutment and all that. So for that and all the floodplain stuff, I think it is getting raised, but I would call that 90% sure. But generally, and on the approaches, we always try and bring those up so that they're not in the hole.
Yeah. Well, I just thought of another question too. Along this new recreation trail that's being built, I'm assuming that it's going to be concrete.
Yep.
Is there going to be a side where people who don't like to walk on concrete have something to walk on?
Yep, so we got that. We had a couple open houses on this, and that's some of the feedback we received is people like to jog on the trails and not ruin their knees. So it has 10-foot concrete the whole way, and then 2-foot soft surface trails on each side. And then the only places that won't are the bridges because they're so tight.
Yeah, so it won't have that at the bridges where they're tight, not the bridge crossings, but the remainder, it's 2.25 miles, the remainder of that will all have soft surface trails. And there's, benches and kind of interpretive areas, those are all off to the side, and the soft surface trails stay continuous through there so that you're not interrupted with trip hazards on those and stuff. So,
sounds good.
yeah.
There was somebody back there, I can't remember who it was.
Are you going to extend the angle parking areas on Main Street?
That's been talked about a lot, and I think it will happen eventually. I don't know that, right now we're not working on any plans for it or anything, but I know that it is on their radar. And then also, I'm still working with CDOT to try and improve West Main, which is kind of out of our jurisdiction. I would say there's a good chance eventually the diagonal parking on Main will be extended east.
Scott, great presentation. We have in the community 3 ways to get across the Uncompahgre River by vehicle. LaSalle, Main Street, and Chipeta. There had been some talk about taking Ogden and running it up over Sunset Mesa as a potential, working with the landowners and also for that Rio Grande connector. Is that still a potential project?
It's still on the dream list, yes. We had a developer come to us a couple of years ago, it was about probably 2 years ago now. Let me pull up a map so everyone can see what we're talking about here. So essentially, yeah, where that green bridge is. So this is a map of the city, so, you know, Main Street, Townsend. So you're talking about, let's see, Ogden, yeah. So where the Ogden Woodgate roundabout here, extending that up, kind of cutting the slope, and then tying into Sunset Mesa, and then coming back down, lining up with, I think they were talking about lining up with East Oak Grove here. Or here, one of the 2. We'd love to, and from a traffic flow standpoint, it would be amazing because, you know, that's a long ways around. It's just very expensive. So there's a lot of cut, a lot of grade issues, a lot of property, or some property acquisition up here at the north end. My hope is, it'd be cool if we did it in my career just because I want to, because it'd be a lot of retaining walls and cool structure. But with that comes a lot of cost. So it's not on the, I don't see it happening within 10 years in my mind, but we still dream of it. And if, you know, a big development or some conditions change such that that becomes more economically viable, that would kind of help be the catalyst to make that happen.
I got a little bit of humor here. How about pothole patrol? Potholes.
Is there a street guy in the room? So our streets department does that. They're under Jim Shive. I think both of them are unavailable today. Yeah, they're filling potholes, so they're out every day filling potholes. You know, this time of year. So last year wasn't so bad because we didn't have a lot of rain and snow melt. The water's a bad actor, and then this time of year, freeze at night, thaw, but they are out 5 days a week. Will made a movie about potholes. They're out pothole fixing a lot. He's the expert.
Scott, talk about the app, A Better Montrose, to report potholes.
Yeah, so there's the, Virgil's presented on some of the previous Heidi's was the Better Montrose app. You can download it. You come across a pothole, you can just take your location, send it in, it automatically goes on the list to get repaired. You can also call our Public Works office at 240-1498. Forget that, it's on the website also, and report them that way. But they are out in full force because this is mud and pothole season. So.
I wanted to ask you about plans to redo some of the current city streets where the crowns are so high and the drainage is terrible, and you just avoid intersections because you drag the bottom out of anything long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what, you know, a lot of these rebuilds and a lot of these projects, we're fixing those. So, you know, some of the sins of the past where they just, you know, your curbs are fixed, and so their maintenance was overlay a street, and so it just keeps getting taller and taller and taller. And even, I had an F-250 work truck that would even scrape on some of those. So that's why a lot of what you see us doing now are mill and overlays, so we're not worsening that problem any of the streets we're doing that are already acceptable levels, not making that any worse. And some of those really bad ones, like North Park's a good example of some of those that are just, some of those have 2 feet of pavement, some of those intersections. And then, you know, they built up and they put those pipes across the things, so you have that death hole in the corner. And all of that, the only way to fix that is a rebuild. And so it ends up using a lot of dollars. And so they're on the list, but finding that sweet spot of also not letting the others fall off the cliff. But they are in the hopper, and we build them right now. In the past, I would dare say they did.
I'm wondering about bypasses, say from Gunnison to Ridgeway and from north to south on 50 to 550.
So the comprehensive plan has, you know, the 68, I think it's up here, kind of a bypass route tying in, comes in all the way at the south end of town here. Again, with the topography, those, I doubt we would see that in my career, just because they're so expensive. And we have a lot of, the core and a lot of the congestion is in the core of the city here. And so getting those addressed and then kind of working our way out. But the plans are there. It's just probably not, it's not in the hopper, I would say, just given the large scale and the cost. You'd have to give up all capital for like 10 some years to do it, or take out more loans, which we're generally pretty financially conservative as far as going into debt for things.
West side, then, what about that?
West side, I think, I'd maybe turn to the county. I think on the cities, our kind of bypass is Grand Avenue extending down all the way down to Rio Grande here. So you get that core bypass in the city. Longer term, maybe something off of LaSalle, and I think that's I'd maybe turn to the county guys if it's in your comp plan, or it's a dream. Yeah.
Scott,
We have a lot of dreams too.
Scott, thanks for being here, explaining the project. So my concern is, instead of starting new projects, why can't you go down Townsend Avenue, as an example, and fix the curbs, the sidewalks that are east? Example is at Main and Townsend, that curb's been done for 5 years now. Why aren't you fixing those projects before you start the new ones? Also, projects like the roundabouts, you never keep them clean. You need to have sweepers out there more often. I'm sorry, you're not doing a really good job of that.
Yeah, I can speak to those. So Townsend is owned and maintained by CDOT. So on Townsend, we do snow plowing and pothole repair, and that's about it. So Townsend's a CDOT road, but for on our network, it's generally finding that sweet spot. We need to expand capacity to stay ahead of growth, and we also need to maintain what we have, and that is a very delicate balance we seek to find. As far as the roundabouts, so anybody who's been in any of the roundabouts on a snowy day, they're pretty slippery. They're concrete, some of them are shaded, and so they see a lot more salt and gravel. So that's why a lot of those have a lot of the dirt they have, and then it's a street maintenance thing to get out and sweep those. In the middle of the winter, if there's freezing temperatures, the sweepers don't work because they run in the water, but they do work to get those cleaned up.
So I'd like to speak to the detours on during the roundabout construction. I think, there's a difference between inconvenience and danger, and I guess I'm concerned about routing traffic from residential areas out onto Highway 50, and it seems like, that's a really dangerous proposition, routing traffic to make a left turn onto the highway. It just seems like, that's just a recipe for disaster. Is there any, I know you're dealing with CDOT, but is there any way to do a temporary traffic signal there, or it seems like, there's a lot of residences in there that really have no option other than to, they're not going to go over to whatever that south detour route is, so it just
So
seems
coming
like
over to Sunnyside.
Yeah, is that Sunnyside?
Yeah, and that's a challenge. I'll talk to CDOT. Temporary signal, even temporary, is probably $300,000-$400,000, and so by the time we spend all those dollars, looking at the cost, so typical cost of a detour is 50 cents a mile, and so you look at the loading out here. We see about 2,000 vehicles a day out here. So you take those, put them right here. Does it make economic sense to spend taxpayer dollars to do that? But that's something we can look at. It's just a consequence. You got a big golf course in the way here, nothing connecting in between. So it is a challenge, and we definitely see that. But I'll reach out to CDOT on the temporary signal and kind of get a feel for that, even if that's even viable, and look at the cost.
One of my concerns is if you come off of West Main Bridge going east on a bicycle, it's really difficult to make it to Townsend. Is there any plans for sometime in the future redoing that so we have a sidewalk or a bike lane in there, make that a little bit more palatable?
Yeah, so a couple of things we're looking at. Let me go back to the city map. So that's also CDOT. You know, so yeah, from here, you know, from towns in this way is all CDOT jurisdiction. So we can reach out to them. You know, in my mind, two things that will really help. Looking at getting the bridge across the river here. So we have our bird kind of conservation area. Getting connection through that to the trail network, and then you can come up on West Main, go underneath, come up on, you know, even the connection between Townsend and the bridge isn't great either, you know, on either side. It's a pretty weak area. As part of the trail project, I think some of your feedback was making a connection down to the trail for people coming down the north side of West Main, so that's in the plans. That'll happen with that. And then, you know, kind of the third thing we're looking at with that is, you know, as part of I don't think we'll ever get full control of West Main, but working on some sort of agreement with CDOT to let us pursue additional right-of-way or widening where it makes sense to improve the pedestrian corridor here. And a lot of that's being worked out. You know, DART's starting to talk about it, the downtown redevelopment team stuff. But it's a challenge, and it's not our road, and that's the other challenge. All become CDOT through here. So, yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Would like 2 years be a reasonable time to get 6700 road through, just as an estimation? It's been on hold for a long time.
Yeah, so on that one we have, let me go to that slide. So this last piece here, I think right here, right? We have a landowner that's kind of held out here that would, you know, have to go to eminent domain. The thing with going to eminent domain is you have to build right behind it. So you can't just get the land and then kind of do it when it's convenient. We only see about 2,000 vehicles per day out here. And then we have a lot of our higher capacity issues here. Woodgate's, you know, a higher priority because of the issues created down here. This is a pretty decent priority because of the shortcutting that happens through Stonebridge. So there's a lot of competing interests. None of these, the prioritization of this hasn't been set, so it's hard to say when. And then again, you know, putting dollars towards maintenance also, you know, capital and maintenance projects are the same pot of money, so finding that sweet spot on those.
Thank you so much, Scott, for all the information and coming and filling us in on all the updates. Let's give him a great round. So for those of you who are new to the forum and would like to get on the list to find out what's happening in the future, please give your email address to Barbara or Kathy after the program. And I wanted to let you know what's happening next week. So next week, Tim Foster, who is the president of CMU, both CMU Montrose, CMU Grand Junction, and also the Vocational College, he'll be here. So he'll be talking about some of the things that's happening at CMU. So thank you again for your kind attention. Have a great day.